Detroit is stirring up the NFL behind the scenes with two unexpected moves, one involving a name who's already an All-Pro, and another who's become a fan favorite thanks to his insane on-field versatility. The other twist? It's coming straight from Draft Buzz, with insiders saying the Lions' plans may have flipped upside down in the last few hours. And the reason behind that shift might have something to do with key veterans and a concern barely anyone was paying attention to. If you're a Lions fan, you don't want to miss what's coming. Drop a like to support the channel, and let's break it all down together. Now look, every time a team starts dishing out big money to its stars, the inevitable question pops up. Who's next to go? With the Detroit Lions throwing down $86 million over 4 years for Kirby Joseph, making him the highest-paid safety in NFL history, fans are already crunching the numbers and wondering who might be the odd man out. And unsurprisingly, some are pointing the finger at Brian Branch. But hold on. If there's one guy who shouldn't even be in that conversation, it's Branch. Sure, Joseph made All-Pro and just cashed in big time, but that doesn't take away from Branch's value. The kid is a Swiss Army knife in cleats. Put him anywhere in the secondary safety, corner, nickel, and he delivers. Want to push it further? Throw him in at linebacker and he'll probably find a way to dominate there too. He's like that quote from The Departed where Jack Nicholson says a real artist takes a tuba and makes something out of it. That's Branch, a defensive artist. So if you're thinking he's the odd man out in Detroit, think again. In fact, he's probably next in line for a truckload of money. And if the market plays out logically, he might even get more than Joseph. With Kyle Hamilton from the Ravens about to reset the safety market, don't be surprised if Branch ends up signing something close to $90 million over 4 years. And you know what? He's worth every cent. Just think back to the Legion of Boom era in Seattle, with Cam Chancellor and Earl Thomas running the defense and leading the Seahawks to back-to-back Super Bowls. The Lions, with this young, versatile core, have a real shot at building something similar. Right now, the defense is cheap and talented, but to keep it that way, they'll have to pay up. And honestly, that investment could be exactly what takes Detroit from promising to champion. So, Lions fans, do you think it's fair to even mention our Swiss Army knife in this kind of cut talk? Drop your thoughts in the comments. But hold tight, because if you thought that news was hot, the next one might just stir up the fan base even more. For months, nearly every mock draft had the Lions going after an edge rusher or an interior defensive tackle with the 28th overall pick. But just hours before the draft, the tide seems to be shifting, and in a big way. Now, some insiders are betting that Detroit could shock everyone by investing heavily in the offensive line. And honestly, it makes sense. Taylor Decker and Graham Glasgow are pushing 30, and Frank Ragnow is basically held together with duct tape after battling injuries for 7 seasons. Kevin Zeitler left in the offseason, and Penei Sewell is the only long-term anchor left on that line. So no, you can't just assume this unit will stay dominant without some reinforcements. Jonathan Jones of CBS Sports dropped a fresh mock draft with the Lions picking Josh Connerly Jr., an OT out of Oregon. It may not be the sexiest pick in the draft, but the guy lives and breathes football and seems like exactly the type of player Dan Campbell would love in his locker room. Plus, it's a forward-thinking move, prepping for when Decker eventually retires and providing some insurance in case of injuries. According to Next Gen Stats and Lance Zierlein from NFL.com, Connerly is ranked as the 5th best tackle in the class. Young, raw, but with the kind of upside that could turn into a solid NFL starter. If the Lions are going to address the O-line, some argue the real need is a guard, and that brings Tyler Booker from Alabama into the picture. Chad Reuter, also from NFL.com, has Detroit picking Booker in his latest mock. And let's be real, Brad Holmes loves his Bama players. He's already drafted Jameson Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, Brian Branch, and Terrion Arnold. Booker would be just another addition to the collection. He started 2 seasons, allowed just 2 sacks over more than 2,000 snaps, and was even a team captain in 2024. He might not be the most freakish athlete out there, but he's got football IQ, polished technique, and that leadership DNA Campbell loves. With Glasgow declining and Zeitler gone, it makes a ton of sense for Detroit to use that pick to beef up the interior O-line. It might not be a pick that sets the fan base on fire right away, but it could be exactly the kind of decision that separates a good team from a championship one. If the Lions really want to stay on top, they'll need to make bold and smart moves. Some players are simply off limits in any cut conversation, and some position groups, if left unchecked, could turn into liabilities fast. The pieces are moving, and Detroit seems to be thinking big. So if you want to follow every step of this plan, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and stay locked in for all the latest updates on your team.